What's up, friends? So I'm gonna be starting a meditation series, and I'll basically be covering all 6 meditations by Rene Descartes. And you already look at Mr. Descartes; he's ready to go. So for today, we're gonna only be covering meditation 1, but I will cover meditation. Oh, and if you're wondering what happened to the last video, I just took it up. I think I'd want to make a more formalized series instead of rushing it. Taking my time to actually condense my notes and put them in here and stuff. So first of all, in the first meditation, Descartes starts off, reflecting on how many false ideas he has accepted during his youth, and because of this, he says the beliefs he has built upon or derived from these are unreliable. So he says that in order for him to build a strong and lasting foundation of knowledge, he must demolish all previous beliefs and start from scratch, basically, right? He wants to find a philosophical Archimedean point. But Descartes also says that it is impossible to prove that all his opinions are false, which is true. So his approach is to withhold assent from anything that is not completely certain and indubitable, such as the senses, which we will see later. So first he realizes that almost every belief he has was derived from the senses or through sensory experience. But there is a big problem, right? The problem with the senses is that they can be deceptive. They can deceive you sometimes. If you want to use the classic David David Hume example, press down on one eye and now objects will appear to be two, which is pretty funny from Mr. David Hume himself. But yes, there is scenarios where the senses appear to deceive us, and so just as it is wise never to trust something that has deceived us even once, therefore, because the senses have been deceptive at least once, Descartes says that he cannot place full trust in them. Shoot, I forgot to capitalize Descartes there. Forgive me. Forgive me for all you Cartesians. I'm sorry. And so, although he acknowledges an objection, which is that many things perceived through the senses seem impossible to doubt, these are called immediate perceptions. It's commonly found in foundationalism, and if you're wondering what foundationalism is, it's a epistemological position of epistemic justification that says that our beliefs and our epistemic, I guess, what's it called? How am I already forgetting the word? It's something. Oh, and our epistemic commitments are ultimately grounded in an indubitable, self-evident starting point. And so foundationalism is contrasted with coherentism, right, as I have previously mentioned in some previous videos, such as the strong foundationalism in Descartes. Right, Descartes is a strong foundationalist. Right, he wants to find an infallible ground for knowledge. And so, for example, he cannot doubt that he is currently sitting by the fire, wearing his dressing gown and holding a sheet of paper in his hands. If I'm holding a pencil and this pencil appears orange to me, then the existence of orange in my perception is indubitable. Like, I necessarily see that thing. Right? And so these are called direct, immediate experiences, and they are not subject to the same errors as, distant or unclear perceptions. In other words, statements like I see red and I think are indubitable and incorrigible. They cannot be false. And so then Descartes also realizes that he could be mistaken he has a body or even having hands, just as madmen are mistaken by their identities. However, Descartes doesn't want to use the madmen argument because this would be different, from being deceived or at least having illusions, right? And so, however, Descartes uses a very famous skeptical problem, which is the dream argument, and he says in that in dreams he experiences things that feel very real, just like reality. In his dream, he was sitting down near a fire, when in reality he is lying in bed. So this is a huge problem for the senses. Even though his eyes are open now and he consciously extends his hand, he cannot absolutely distinguish wakefulness from dreaming. So this is a huge epistemic problem, right? And so there are no definitive signs that can separate dreaming from waking. This totally destroys the reliability of the senses, because at any moment he could be in a dream without realizing it. And people who would like to say, well, if I'm just totally dreaming and if I was just constantly dreaming, couldn't I just build knowledge in a dream? Well, no, for several reasons. First, you got David Hume's skepticism, right? David Hume, the GOAT. I'm just kidding. Actually, yeah, I like David Hume. He's one of my favorite philosophers. But David Hume's problem of induction and problem of causation is going to kill you like a scythe. And if you do not have at least a decent argument from retorsion, or, well, I don't know, retorsion might work. But if you do not have a justification, then no, your knowledge, supposed knowledge and dreams are really not knowledge at all. Because all I have to do is propose a Humean problem and totally destroy your worldview. Trust. Okay, so to push this even further, he assumes that for the sake of the argument that he really is dreaming, and none of his perceptions right now are true. Now, please, note that he does not actually believe he is dreaming, right? So, this is actually important because, just because Descartes, right, Descartes is acting like a skeptic for the sake of the pursuit of knowledge, does not mean he's a literal skeptic. Just as in the same way Aquinas uses an Aristotelian argument, it does not mean he is an Aristotelian, right? Just because I use a Humean argument does not mean I'm a Humean, right? Just because I assent to something in Kantian transcendentalism doesn't mean I'm a Kantian, right? And so then he also realizes that even if he is dreaming, some concepts are still going to be true. So he uses an example of a painter where a painter creates a imaginary creature. It could be, let's say, a unicorn, whatever. They do not invent entirely new forms, but they combine elements from real animals. They had to use real stuff to even compose it, right? Because you couldn't just get these ideas via causal principle of Descartes, where the effect cannot have more of reality than the cause itself, because the cause would have to be a higher nature, which means it has a higher eminence, right? So even if his perceptions are illusions, there must be some basic universal concepts that are true. These concepts is where all thoughts are constructed or formed. And so Descartes says that these general concepts must be true. Certain fundamental ideas about physical reality seem indubitable, and this includes corporal nature in general, which is just basically the real existence of objects, right, coming to my perception. Right, I see a microphone in front of me. Oh, that's indubitable. I literally see it, bro. And so extension, just the idea that an object takes up space and the shape of extended things, geometric properties, blah 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 blah, triangle, triangular, parallelogram, whatever you want to call it. Quantity, how much of a thing, place, that's pretty self-evident. Time, measure over change or whatever, right? It's self-evident stuff. And so, furthermore, Descartes compares natural sciences to mathematics, physics, astronomy, medicine, and other sciences that depend on the observation of composite things in which they rely on sensory perceptions. But then again, these senses the senses can deceive you, which is a huge problem for natural sciences, right? Especially if you have famous skeptical arguments such as the problem of the external world, the problem of other minds, the problem of induction, the underdetermination of sense data. Wilfrid I forgot his name. I think it's Wilfrid Sellars. No, yeah, Wilfrid Sellars' myth of the given, right? Basically saying that the sciences assume that there's some given, epistemic given. That's why it's called the myth of the given, right? And so, but arithmetic, geometry, and similar disciplines deal only with simple and abstract concepts. These disciplines do not depend on the existence of physical things, so they seem certain and indubitable. They are established as a priori knowledge, which is knowledge independent of empirical justification. So even if Descartes was dreaming, truths like 3 plus 5 equals 8 is still going to be true. Descartes also believes in God, and he believes God to be all perfect and all powerful, or basically omnipotent. But he begins to doubt and ask whether if God could deceive him about the existence of the external world, so could he really be mistaken about 2 plus 3 equals 5? I mean, if God is supremely good, then it would seem illogical for him to allow Descartes to be deceived. But there is a paradox. If God is all good, how can he allow Descartes to be deceived at all? And if God allows deception, can Descartes trust anything he knows? Then Descartes cranks up the skepticism to the extreme, and I'm talking extreme. Now, Descartes introduces the supremely powerful and evil deceiver. This evil genius has tricked him about everything. Now, Descartes will assume that everything external is just an illusion. His wife is an illusion. I'm just kidding. Descartes acknowledges this is very difficult to do so. I mean, cause it is. And we will continue this in the second meditation. And this is the end of meditation 1. Have a wonderful day, my fellow philosophers.